Mr. Pravesh Sharma, Mr. Alan, Mr. Jinnah, Mr. Goyal, and friends. Good morning and welcome to you. Thanks Star Agri for organizing this commodity finance conclave. It's a challenge to speak after three giants have already spoken and with very little to speak about. Since I represent the markets, let me give my 2 cents to that. This year we have seen a lot of opportunities being thrown up in the commodities market space, which hold out a great deal of promise for the future. Just let me enumerate some of those. We are seeing a revolution in the agri supply chain. On one hand, if you look at the B2C space, there is a consumer-led e-commerce boom which is happening. Yes, it's happening on the durables front, but we are also seeing a part of it which is agri input-led. On the other hand, there is a silent revolution happening at the mandis. For example, in the primary agriculture markets, we have seen Karnataka being the first state to consolidate the mandi licensing system into one single trader license. Last week, Andhra Pradesh was the second state to adopt the unified market platform. So what this unified market platform does is it helps online registration of farmers, it helps in objective quality certification, it helps in e-trading so that the farmer can put out his produce on an electronic platform and hope to get a fair price through the process of price discovery. There is a direct payment to the farmers in their bank accounts. There is an e-permit, and there is a now new concept called warehouse-based sales, which is also underway. So instead of the farmer coming to the mandi as a market goes to the farmer's place. So these are some of the new trends that we are seeing, which in the days to come, as it evolves, holds out a huge potential. In the budget speech this year, the finance minister spoke about the role of a national agriculture market. Now, this was a concept which came through its due. The farmers, so in his speech he mentioned that the farmers' produce does not command the price that it should be commanding. So there is what he called a best national price. Now, how does, the key question is how will the farmer get the best national price? The solution is a single national market platform, and which is through developing and deepening the transparent and regulated price discovery mechanism. So that was one. At a practical level, the way we see it develop and eventually evolve is that since the farmer faces the perfect competition when he sells his produce at the mandi level, the idea is to extend this competition to the buyer side so that more buyers can access the produce at the mandi level across the state and across the nation. So effectively that raises the farmer realization. What we understand is from all the studies is that the farmer gets 40% of the retail price. There is a 60% which is an intermediation cost, and not all of that intermediation cost is value-added in nature. So the national agriculture market, as it evolves, we can combine the scale of the GST and ease of doing business promised by the Digital India, which will help the farmers and the consumers. And as we go about creating a national best price, the benefit is that India will have its own benchmark, global benchmark. Today we are a price taker in the global markets. Normally there is a comparison with India and China, but we are nowhere there. So how do you create markets unless you have your local benchmark which can stand out in the global space? So this will help create those benchmarks, and there are commodities where India, if you look at those commodities where India is a top importer, producer, consumer. So there are 15, 16 set of commodities where there is a potential for India to be a price setter globally rather than a price setter taker. When you look at the mandis, there is no formal role today for a warehouse. There is no formal role for assorting, grading, bank finance and logistics. So the way we see it is that at the primary market, the Karnataka model is the way to go forward. And every deep primary markets would need support of vibrant secondary markets. So a national contract or a forward contract which is traded on commodity exchanges is also the way we see it developing as we go forward. So we launched forward contracts last year in September around this year, and now we are seeing a significant traction as people are beginning to realize the benefits of it. We are also seeing a demand for credit-based forward contracts, which is cleared and settled on the commodity exchanges. So this would represent a significant opportunity for the banks and the NBFCs to lend in a secured environment. We have a tie-up with a lot of banks and NBFCs to provide credit against commodity in warehouses which are accredited by the exchange through electronic holding system, what we call as Comtract. The key value proposition here is the farmer does not have to clear his loan before the sale of the goods, as is the case with the physical warehouse receipt. So in a physical warehouse receipt, if there is a lien, he has to first clear off the loan before he can sell the. So this is a self-liquidating loan. So this removes the problem of liquidity generation for the farmer. So that's a mechanism which is already under play. And as we see, this part of the finance will only grow. So this scheme can be provided as a collateral finance to farmers, self-help groups, FPOs. So we are also seeing significant traction from the FPOs. Already 26 FPOs are registered with us. We have already done trades worth close to 1 crore. That's quite a lot. So the FPOs are doing the function of aggregation and then bringing their produce and selling it in the forward contract. This is not the futures contract. This is the forward contract, which is as is various basis based on the quality that they have. And then there is a demand that comes from the buyers. It gets matched off and the transaction happens. As we go along, this part will help in reducing some part of that imbalance which Mr. Jinnah spoke of in terms of the pre-harvest loan market, which is 8.5 lakh crore, and the post-harvest market, which is 35,000 crores. So, so that part of the financing is something that would grow. If we look at in May 2015 this year, Reserve Bank came with advisory to the banks that the banks are encouraged to encourage their borrowers to hedge their commodity price risk on commodity exchanges. Now, what is the trigger for the banks to for the Reserve Bank to issue that advisory? Commodity price risk is just too risky not to be hedged. So that's the thing. This will help banks to improve their overall balance sheet risk profile. The borrowers who hedge on exchanges, or if they have natural hedges, like some people may have import and export. So if there are natural hedges, then the banks could look at creating incentive structure and provide better interest rates to these borrowers who adopt hedging practices and also risk management practices. And not all of that risk management practices should be on commodity exchanges. There could be natural hedges also. So this is what we believe is a significant policy step from the Reserve Bank to increase the linkage between the credit mechanism and the market mechanism. Even though as of now banks are not allowed to hedge or trade on the commodity exchanges. The fact that the advisory has gone to the banks to get their borrowers to hedge is a first step and a very significant step. In September, which is last month, we also saw the merger of FMC with SEBI. This is a very significant step in the history of development of the commodities market. We always wanted a FCRA bill to be amended, and since that didn't go through, this was the resolution. So now we have a very strong regulator, so a regulator who has all the legal powers, and SEBI is known to develop vibrant markets, and it is also known to take action against manipulators. So the markets can be a bit assured that SEBI will step in, in a very strong way. If we see the way SEBI has gone about in the earlier days, that they said that if securities finance, securities in demat form, if that has to be available for bank finance, then it should be in the electronic or the demat form. We see the same thing happening on the commodities side, where the commodity warehouse receipt in a registry in electronic form will eventually be the way forward, and banks can be able to lend against the electronic balance in a registry. What we are also seeing is an increasing convergence between commodity exchanges, warehouse service providers like Star Agri, and the banks. In the future, as the clearing corporation in the commodity side gets set up, we'll also start seeing the convergence of the insurance company, where all risks priced in insurance policies could be offered at a competitive rate to the farmers, so that his output value is protected at the end of the day, which takes care of both the yield part of it, and second is the price part of it. So that can also eventually, as the market develops, is something that we would see. One of the things that we would like to mention to the insurance companies is, since the exchange accredited warehouse service provider go through a very stringent due diligence process, and the norms are extremely stringent, there is a case for reduction of insurance premium, so for them, so that eventually the cost in the value chain can come down, and those benefits could be also given to the farmers, at least in the first phase. As we see at this point of time, there is an uncanny similarity to the Brazilian situation in the 1990s. With respect to the 3 stages of development in agri-based finance, the 3 stages essentially there are periods of high subsidies and frauds, which we are seeing. There is a period of crisis, which we are witnessing right now. And the third period is embracing the markets, which is also what we started to see. Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh are the states at the state level, and the evolution eventually of the national agriculture market at the central level are a step in direction of embracing the markets. So a modern market structure in agriculture is evolving. It's still not there. Maybe it will take a decade or so in terms to be fully functional. But the fact is, the steps have been taken, and some of them are there to see. So this modern market structure, where it disseminates market information, it will also ensure timely payment to the farmers. So we are also seeing evolution in, for example, mobile wallets. So why cannot we have an agri-finance wallet for the farmer? So some of these delivery channels of finance could be used, and these are modern channels of delivery of finance, the payments bank, which will help ensure that the institutional credit mechanisms are available to the small farmers, which probably was so far not access to. So we are also seeing promotion of grades and standardization in certain areas in pockets, but these are still pockets, but they do hold out a great promise. And eventually all of this will start embedding in the agri-supply chain. And as this gets embedded more and more into the agri-supply chain, the realization for the farmer eventually will go up. And second is the inefficiencies in the agri-supply chain will start coming down. So from our perspective, we see many opportunities in this space, but there are also few challenges which was mentioned by Mr. Alak in terms of stability of the policy. I guess markets don't like unstable government policies. So if the policies are pretty stable, I guess the markets on their own will figure out ways and means of creating huge efficiencies. So with this, I conclude, and I wish this commodity conclave all the success, and I look forward to interacting with all of you. Thanks.